Hello students, today we are going to see one of the features of C++, that is polymorphism. Before I explain polymorphism, let us see some of the features that we studied and they are supported by C++, that is data abstraction. We created classes and structures in the C++ and we actually created user-defined data types or abstract data types. The ability to create the abstract data types is called data abstraction, and then we can create the variables or objects of abstract data type. So abstract data types serve as models, and based on those models we are able to declare the variables or objects. We have also seen that in C++ the class or structure can contain both data and functions, that is data and code. Having data and code within the same code block is called as encapsulation. We have also seen that in C++ there are access specifiers for data and function. The default access specifiers for data and functions of a structure are public and for the class are private. Then we have seen how we can change the access specifiers of data and functions. There are three possibilities: public, private and protected, and that way we are able to restrict the access of data and functions of a particular class or a structure. This is called as data hiding. This feature is called as data hiding. Today we are going to discuss polymorphism. The word polymorphism actually comes from biology. Those people who have studied biology, botany and zoology, especially zoology, they have seen that the frog can exist in two forms, either in tadpole form or in the form of a frog. This is called as polymorphism. That is the ability of the organism to exist in more than one form. But C++ uses this term to designate its ability to use the same thing for different purposes. So polymorphism in C++ means using same thing for different purposes. What is the same thing? We will see. So it is basically of two types. One is compile time polymorphism, that is achieved through function overloading and operator overloading. Another is runtime polymorphism or dynamic binding, that is achieved through virtual functions. Today we are going to discuss function overloading. Now, by same thing, for example, we take an example of function overloading. In function overloading, we have got more than one function with the same name. So it seems that we have got one function which can do many tasks. Then operator overloading, we can use the operator. We know we have used the operator, for example plus operator, on two variables which were of primitive data type. Then can we use plus operator on user defined data type, that is on structure variables and objects. If we can extend the ability of the plus operator or its capability so that it can be used on structure variables and objects, that is called as operator overloading. The same technique is also used for data conversions, where we can assign the objects of two different classes to each other, or we can assign structure variables of two different structures to each other. Is that possible? that we'll see in operator overloading. I'm simply introducing the terms operator overloading today and giving you the brief idea about what it is doing. Operator overloading means we are giving extra function to the operator which could be normally used on primitive data types. And now we'll be using it on user defined data types. This is actually not supported by the compiler, but we will be extending the abilities of the operator, and it has got two applications. One is, as I've already told, extending the capabilities of the operator or doing data conversion. Now in virtual functions or dynamic binding, this is a concept related to inheritance, which is again a feature that is supported by C++. And once we see that feature, we'll see that we'll be able to use two functions, one in the base class and one in the derived class, and then with the pointers of the base class, if they are pointing towards the function in the base class or towards the function in the derived class, it is important that two functions in the base class and derived class should have the same name. Depending upon the binding of the pointer with the function of the base class or with the function of derived class, it will be called accordingly. Now this binding is achieved at runtime, and binding a pointer to the function of a base class or derived class means storing the address of that function within that pointer. And the pointer, the contents of the pointer will change during the runtime, and the same call will be treated differently by the compiler. This again we are going to see in detail, and it is related to inheritance. We have not studied inheritance yet. Okay. Now today we are going to actually study function overloading. What is function overloading? Function overloading is C++ feature where you can have more than one function with the same name. Okay. So in function overloading, two or more functions can have same names, provided they should differ in three things. Either they should differ in type of arguments, or number of arguments, or order of the arguments, or combination of any of these. This is one thing. That is, two functions can have the same name in C++, provided their data type of the arguments is different, or the number of arguments in the two functions is different, or the order of the arguments in the two functions is different, or any of these. Okay. But if the two functions have the same name and the same number of arguments and same data type of the arguments, even if their return type is different, they cannot be overloaded. That is, their return type, data type is different, they cannot be overloaded. They should differ in the first three possibilities that I have already discussed. Now, actually, the compiler does not create the functions with the same names. It internally converts the two functions with the same name into the name that is unique. So if we have got more than one functions with the same name in C++, the compiler will do what we call as name mangling. That is, it will generate a unique name for each function, even though the user gets the perception that he is using a function with the same name, or user does not even know that the three functions exist or two functions exist that are performing his task. He has to simply remember the name of the one function. Okay. Function overloading at times leads to surprises. Now the beauty of this concept we can see once we go into IDE and do the things practically. But the important thing that you should remember in function overloading, we can have more than one function with the same name. No, that is not possible in C. Okay, let us try to do it in C, then in C++, and see what is the difference. No. If you see, I have saved my file as my.c. Here at the top there's a name my.c. The C files have the extension .c and C++ files have the extension C++. Let me first create two functions with the same name. If the compiler accepts it, then C supports that function overloading. If the compiler does not accept it and reports an error, that means C does not support it. Now I'll do this. I'll write the same function definitions in both CPP file and C file, and you will see the difference and you will understand what I mean. Suppose I have a function P. I write two functions with the same name, one function with P, another function with the name P. Now I have to create the function, that is I write the first line. Suppose the return type is void. Okay. Now for this function also the return type is void. Okay. Now the functions should actually differ in formal parameters or formal arguments. That is the arguments we declare within these short braces. Now first function P has the argument, suppose int k. Another function P has the argument, suppose float L. Okay. Now we have two functions with the same name, one is P and another is also P. Okay, but they differ in the type of arguments. The first function P has the argument as formal argument or formal parameter as int k, and it has got another function P has a formal argument as of the type float. I'll copy this program. Let me first compile this program, that is the C program, because I told you I have saved my file with C extension. Now if I create a new file, now if you see I will save this file with the extension. I will call it as my2.cpp. Okay, this is now the second file. I have this two files in the same program. One is my.cc, then I have got another my.c and my.cpp. Let me first compile my.c. Since it is in the front, so this file is active. Okay, once I compile this file, you see what happens. If I compile this file, compiler reports an error. What is the error? See the error here. Error is here. Multiple declarations of P. Since P has been declared twice, that is, I have defined the same function twice. C does not allow. Compiler reports an error. Okay, this is not allowed in C, that two functions can have same name. So overloading is not possible. Let us do the same thing in CPP file. See here. Now I have got the same program. I pasted it in my C++ file. Let me compile this program. Okay. Once I compile, there is no error. So this is acceptable in C++. So this is an indication that function overloading is allowed. See, I wrote the same program. I defined the same two functions and the main in this program. The way I did it in, if you see here in C, with this my.c, same program is there. Two functions are there. Once I compile it, it is reporting me an error. What is the error? That error is multiple declarations of P. Okay. Now if I go to my C, this program, that is my2.cpp, and compile the program, you won't get any error. So warnings. Okay. So C++ supports a feature where you can have two functions with the same name, provided they differ in the type of arguments. Okay. Here the first function has the first argument of type integer and second function has the argument of type float. Okay. Even if we give the same names to argument, it does not matter. What matters is their data type should be different. Okay. By having the same name of the arguments does not mean that two arguments are same. In function overloading, what is important is the data type of argument. Now I have got two functions in which the first argument has the different data type from the first argument of the same with another function which has got same name as the first function. Okay, in case suppose the first argument is same. Okay, the both, now this is not allowed because you see here, if I compile it, you see there are errors. What is the error? Body has already been defined with for the function p int. So in C++, it is possible that two functions can have same name, but their argument type should be different. That is the respective argument. See, since there is no difference in the data type, it won't be acceptable. Now, if I create another argument here, which can be int or float, anything, no problem. Suppose the two functions differ while in the second argument. The first one has got two arguments, and the second one has got only one argument. Sorry, they differ in number of arguments now. Is it possible? Let us compile and see. Acceptable? Yes. No error is there. So this means that in C++, I am simply showing you an example that how we create two functions, and we can have two functions. Their body can be have different logics. That does not matter. What matters is the logic. That is either the type of arguments should be different if they have same number of arguments. Now suppose I declare another argument in the second function p. Now the two functions have same number of arguments and same type of the respective arguments. So this will lead to error. Either they should differ in number of arguments. Now they differ in number of arguments, or in case they have same number of arguments, they should differ in the type of arguments. Now suppose I keep this as double of k. Okay, sorry, double of p or double of o. Okay, is this acceptable? Yes. Why this is acceptable? The number of arguments was same, but the type of arguments of the second argument was different. Okay, now suppose I have got the first argument that is of type, first argument is again type of int, and second argument is again type of float. Is this acceptable? This is not acceptable. Why? Because they don't differ in the number of arguments, and they don't differ in the data type of the corresponding arguments. That is, the data type of the first argument is same, and the data type of the second argument is also same. Now if I make first argument as float and second argument I make as int, okay, is this acceptable? Yes. Now this is taken as an order. Okay, order means the first argument is int, second argument is float, but here the first argument is float and the second argument is int. Actually there is a match of the argument with its corresponding argument, and if the corresponding arguments are different, the function definitions are accepted and you can have overloading possible. Okay, now is it possible that, now suppose two functions have same number of arguments and same data type of the corresponding arguments? As we have seen, this is not allowed. That is, C compiler will not accept these definitions. That is why we say it's not allowed. Sorry, C++ compiler will not accept these definitions because overloading is only possible in C++. Now let me see if I make return types are different. I keep the return type of the first function as int and the return type of the second function as float. Okay, this is what I mean by difference of return types. Is this acceptable? So there is still an error. What is the error? Type mismatch in the redeclaration. So again, if the return type is different, functions cannot be overloaded. The difference should exist within the formal arguments or formal parameters. The formal parameters should either differ in the type of arguments of the corresponding arguments, there should be a difference in their data types, or the number of arguments should be different, or the order of the arguments should be different. This is what I call function overload. Now suppose I have got a first function which has got two arguments as int, and then I have got a second function which has got two arguments as a float, and I suppose I say return type as white. Then I have got third function which has got return type as, sorry, again as void. I will keep, we can have 3 functions with the same name, there is no limit to it. 4 functions, 5 functions, as many, but they should differ in either number of arguments, type of arguments, or order of the arguments. Okay. Now suppose I have got character T, character key. Okay. Now I have got 3 functions with same name, but they differ in the, not in the number of arguments, because in the first function there are 2 arguments, in the second function there are 2 arguments, in the third function there are 2 arguments, but they differ in the data type of the arguments. So once you compile, you will see this is allowed, no error has come. Okay. Now let us write a function that, let us suppose I declare an integer a equal to, I am using initial values so that it will be easier, otherwise you could input the values and first I will now name this function as swap instead of p. Now we are writing some function implementation with some purpose, okay, so that this becomes an example which you can use and understand the power of function overloading. Now what this function does, it swaps the contents of 2 variables. That is, suppose there are 2 variables a and b, it exchanges the values of a and b. That is, after calling this swap function, the value of a will be put into b and value of b will be put into a. Okay. Now I call swap function. Okay, I supply 2 arguments a comma b. What is the data type of a and b? You should note that it is an integer. Okay. Okay. Now you are calling a swap, that is this. This function, I will implement this function. How do I implement it? Int f, then I say f is equal to k. Actually this is a technique called potting in programming, where you have to got, if you want to exchange the contents of the 2 variables, you use a third variable. Suppose you have got water in 2 buckets and you want to exchange the water of the 2 buckets. In one bucket there is a red colored water, and in say bucket A, and in the bucket B there is a blue colored water. Now you want to exchange their water, that is, you want to place the water of the bucket A into bucket B and get the water of bucket B into bucket A. That's not possible. How is that possible? You will have to use the third bucket. You can then put water of the bucket A into the third bucket. That third bucket will call as buffer. Then you can put the water of B into the A bucket. Now contents of B have been transferred to the A. Then you can put the waters of the bucket where you have stored the contents of A into the B. Then the water of the 2 buckets has been exchanged. Okay, this is what we call as potting. That is, you have the water in 2 pots and you want to exchange the waters of the 2 pots. Then what you use a third pot as a buffer, as an intermediate storage for this process. Otherwise it won't be possible if the 2 buckets are already full and you want to exchange the water of the 2 buckets. So you can take this f as a bucket, UCKET. What you do in this bucket, you store the value of k. Okay, now since k is already stored in a bucket, you can put the L into k. So this is equal to k is equal to L. So water of value of L has been transferred to k, because k is already stored in a bucket. Then in the L you can transfer the contents of bucket. This is how we exchange the contents of two variables. This is also called swapping. Swapping means when you have got two variables and you want to exchange their contents, and in this process we use a third variable. This is also possible. It is also possible that we can do it without using the third variable. I am showing you the technique where you exchange the contents of the two variables using a third variable called bucket, and it is similar to what we call as potting, where you have got two pots with the water in them, or you can take two pots. In one pot there is a milk and in one pot there is a water. You want to exchange the contents of the two pots. You want to get the milk in the of the pot A to pot B, and get the water of pot B into pot A. But since the two buckets are already filled, one with water and one with milk, you will have to use the third bucket or a pot. And then what you do, you put the contents of A into the pot, and then you can transfer the contents of B into the A. Then you can transfer the contents what you had saved in the bucket or buffer into the B. Okay. Now this is my T, that third bucket. Okay, T bucket we can call it, third bucket. Okay. This is how we exchange the contents of two variables. If I say k equal to L, the contents of k will be lost and L will be stored in it. So it is better that we store the contents of A first in some bucket. Okay. Now this is how we exchange the contents of two variables. Okay, using a third variable, that is T bucket. So swap will perform the exchange of k and L. Okay, but actually the exchange of the original variables will not take place because this is call by value. We have discussed that, and let us use the same logic here to exchange contents of two floats. But here we won't be using an integer bucket, we will be using a float bucket. Okay, and we will be using k, and other one is here what we call as O. First we save the k in the bucket, then we put O into k. Okay, then we put the bucket into what we call O. Okay, now we can use same logic here also. T bucket equal to k, and then we can put k into k because we have already saved k in the disk. Then we have put t into k, so t is empty now. T is not actually empty, this is copying of one memory variable into another variable. The contents of T won't change with this, they will be, so now T will be the contents of T will be present there, T and K also. Then we can put the contents of T bucket where we have stored contents of K into the T, and again the contents of T bucket won't change. This I have already discussed in assignment statements. Okay, now this should float and this should be char. Okay, so I have got three functions with the same name, that is swap, 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 and then I have got the three functions differ in the arguments, that is in the data type of their arguments, in the number of arguments is same. Okay, return type is void because we are not returning any value. These functions don't calculate any value. Let us first call the first function, that is the swap function. We'll have to do small slight changes in this function, so that let me first compile it and see if there are errors are there. No errors are there. Okay, we are free now to call a function. Now who's calling the function? Main is calling. It is calling swap. Now data type of A and B is integer. What happens at that point of function call? It will call the relevant function. That is, it will call the function which has got two actual arguments. That is, their data type will match with the formal arguments. Now if you see, data type of A is int and data type of B is int. Now if you see, call will be made to this function even though three functions have got the same name. So this is the beauty of C++. You have got three functions with the same name, but depending on the data type of the actual arguments, the function whose actual data type of the actual argument matches with the data type of the formal arguments, with the corresponding formal arguments or formal parameters, then that function will be called since it was possible that out of these three functions any function could have been called. But what is the logic behind calling? The logic behind calling is that the data type of the actual arguments should match with the formal arguments. Okay, since the data type of a and b is, now let us watch this process. Okay, and let us watch it so that you will understand what I am doing. I am watching my contents of A and I am watching the contents of B. Okay, let me watch K and L also. First time I'll watch it because I can put K and watch L. Now if you see the value of A and B that I have initialized in the main is here, it is 90 and 56. So A has a value of 90 and B has a value of 56. Since the function first swap has been called, but the copy of A's value is in K and the copy of B's value is in L. Now we have seen in call by value in the previous lecture that it does not change the contents of ordered variables. Let us see if K and L get exchanged. Now K's value is 90 because A is 90 and L is equal to 56 because B was 56, because we passed the arguments by value and there is always a match with the corresponding formal argument. That is a match of actual argument with the corresponding argument, and in this case we are passing by copy. Okay, now K has a value 90 and L has a value 56. Let us also watch the bucket, that is T bucket. Now if you see here, K is 90, L is 56 and T bucket has got some junk value. Okay, that's alright because we have not initialized T bucket. Now T bucket is equal to K. If you see K's value is 90, if you see now T bucket has also become K. So K does not change itself, but its value gets transferred to T bucket. Next what we do, since we have saved K in T bucket, we will transfer L into K now. Okay, so L's value has been put into K. Now T bucket is already in where has already got the value of K. So after that we put value of K here into the L, and you see the contents of K and L have exchanged. This is what has happened through swap. But if you see A and B here, they will be unchanged. That is, A is still 90 and B is still 56. Okay, why have not their contents changed? Because we have passed by value. Okay, now let us pass by reference. If we pass by reference, what happens? A reference name is created instead of variables, and let me also change the values. Let me put the same names because watching will be easier that way. You understand now. We have put L instead of O. I'll be using L. I'll put the same names so that watching will be easier. K and L will be named. Okay. We can give, as I have already cleared, that local variables of two functions can have the same name. Since I am passing with the reference, let us pass with the reference. How do you pass with the reference? You put an ampersand between the data type and the variable name. Now in this case the variable name is not created, it is simply a second name for the variables of A. So this we have discussed in parameter passing methods, that's call by reference, call by value and call by pointer. Okay, and after this, now if you see, now let me call this function swap and see what happens to A and B actually. Let us see here. I am first, my value of A is 90. Kindly observe this keenly here in the watch window. Initially they have junk values. Now K is initialized to 90, B is initialized to 56. This is because of these initial values. Now swap of A and B will be called with values 90 and 56. Note, A is 90 and B is 56. Now if I call swap what happens? I am using two variables k and l. Now these variables are basically reference names of a and b. So k is same as a and l is same as b. These are simply names that are bound to the same location a and b. Now what happens? I say t bucket is equal to k. That means actually I am putting the value of k into t bucket. Okay, this is simply the exchange process that I have already explained. But if you see now what will happen once we return to the main? If you see on returning to the main, what has happened? The value of a has become 56 and value of b has become 90. That is, these local variables, the contents of these two local variables have been swapped or exchanged. Okay, this is what what happens in call the reference. So the swap function is now capable of exchanging the value of two variables which are of type integer type. Okay, now let us create another variables of type character, so that you can now understand. Now I can say char, again I can say aa equal to, I will assign a constant o, or I will assign a constant left, l, it's not left, it's l. Then I'll keep another character bb, because I cannot have the same name for a variable. I will keep it as r. Okay, now after calling the function, what should happen? The contents of a and bb should exchange. Now let us call another, again we call the function with the name swap, because two functions have the same name. Okay, user has the perception that it is a single function which is capable of doing or exchanging the contents of two character variables or two integer variables. Okay, this is the user's perception. We can provide this program to the user and give him three overloaded functions, and we can tell him that he can use the function swap to exchange the contents of any two character variables or any two integer variables or any two float variables. Okay, but we will tell him that the function name is swap. We won't tell him that we have written three different functions, or we have defined the function thrice or implemented it thrice. Actually we have implemented the function 3 times. Okay, now let us see. Once I call the first function, this first call will be resolved. Which function will be called? Since it has got 3 options, but it will match the data types. Since the data type of a is int and b is also int, now if you see a is 90 and b is 56, okay, we have given values like this. You see, after returning from the function, what happens to a and b? See, a is now 56 and b is 90. That is, contents of a and b have been now you know that a is l and bb is r. Let us see what happens to a and bb. We can do it without watching, because we know a is l and bb is r. Okay, once we call this function, you see now this call was resolved to a different function, even though the function call seems to be same, swap. Okay, you are calling the same function, but actually it is not a same function. The user gets the perception that there is a single function. The programmer has actually implemented 3 functions but given them the same name. This is important. We should see from the perspective of the user. User understands it like that, that he has been given the function that is capable of exchanging 2 character variables, 2 integer variables and 2 float variables. He does not have an idea that internally actually the programmer has defined the 3 functions. This is what actually is meant by all this, what we are doing, this exercise. This is a user perception, and the programmer's perception is different here. Programmer has to implement it thrice, but user will think that he is using a single function, and that single function is capable of doing the different tasks. Okay, here the task is exchanging the 2 variables. Now if you see, once we execute this function, same logic, the contents of a will be stored in bucket, AA will be stored in bucket, then contents of BB will be transferred to the K, that is A, because K is the reference name of A and L is the reference name of BB. And you will see, after returning from the function, the contents of A and BB would be changed. How do you know that? Because initially AA was L and BB was R. Now we have to watch it. If we watch, you will see contents of A will be R. You see here R. We had initialized A to L, and contents of BB will be, okay, This is how the things happen. You can execute the program without the trace mode also by simply running it, and you can input A and B, and you will see after calling to the functions the contents of two variables have exchanged. Okay, I am doing it in trace mode so that you can see what is actually happening. Now the first call was resolved by calling the function swap, which had got two integer arguments. The second call was resolved by calling a function swap, which has got two character type arguments. Now if I declare two floats, say a AAA 9.7 and triple B 6.7. okay, now we can call the swap again. With AAA comma triple B, what will happen? Okay, you see these three function calls. That is, main is calling for swap A and B. The data types are integer and integer, and the same function that matches with this data type definition has been called, and the contents of A and B have been exchanged. This we have seen. Then again swap up of AA and BB. AA and BB are of type character, so call is resolved by calling a function which has where there is a data type match. So data type matches with character and character. Now this is okay. Now if I call another swap with AA and BB, the data type of AA is float and data type of BB is again float. So this matches with the third implementation, that is this swap, where the data type of the K is float and L is float. Again, this will exchange the contents of two variables. We have already discussed this logic. So now what happens if I call a swap with the AAA A and triple AA, but we have not defined any such function, right? The data type of the first argument is A, that is, it is an integer, and the data type of the second argument is float. But have we defined such function? No. We have got one function that has got two character arguments, we have defined another function that has got two float arguments, and we have got defined another function which has got two integer arguments. But I am calling a function which has got argument data type of the first argument A as integer and data type of the second argument as float, but we have not defined such function. Let us see first whether compiler accepts it or not. See, there are errors. What is the error? That is, there is an ambiguity between swap of int and swap of float. That is, the C compiler won't allow it. Okay, C compiler won't allow it. Okay, is this clear? Now let me declare some float double argument, double variable j equal to 9.8. okay, now let me call this function with one which is a float and one that is a double. Okay, have we defined such function which has got first argument of type float and second argument of type double? No, we have not. Let us see what compiler says about this, how it responds to this. Once we compile, no errors. What happened? This is a surprise. We have not defined such function. We have not declared such function. But this call is working. Let us see what happens once we reach to this call. I'll finish the first three calls. We have already discussed them. Now I call this function. Data type of AAA is float and data type of J is double. I have not declared any such function. What happens? Let us see. This was resolved a call to float, and this is what we call as surprise. Okay, this is what I call surprise. Even though we had not defined such function, still a call was made and still this function worked. This is what we call as surprises. So function overloading will lead to surprises, as we have seen so far that what happened in function overloading. We can have multiple functions with the same name, but they should differ either in data type of the arguments, or they should differ in the number of arguments, or they should differ in the order of the arguments. Even if the functions are differ in the return type of the arguments, they won't be overloaded, okay? And function overloading will lead to surprises. Let us go back and see. Two or more functions in C++ can have same names provided they differ in type of arguments, number of arguments, and order of the arguments. And if these differences exist, C compiler does not have any problem with any such function implementations or definitions. But once you don't have two functions which differ in these three things, then C compiler won't allow you to overload such functions. Overloading a function means two functions can have more than one name. Now, second, if the functions differ in the return type only, overloading is not possible. That is, the function should essentially differ in the first three types, either one of these or two of these or all of these, okay? Now, compiler performs name mangling. Actually, we cannot have two functions with the same name, because there is a rule that two user defined names cannot be same. How it was possible? Internally creates the names for these functions. Say suppose for the first function, let us go back to the IDE and say it. Suppose for the first function, whose name is what is the name of the function? Swap. It creates a name like this: swap int. The full name of the function will become swap int, because they differ in the all the three functions differ in the order or number of the arguments. So it will create the name with the name of the function and data type of the arguments, and it will form a new name, and this name will be used internally by the compiler to resolve the calls. But again, your question can be, but what is the name for this function? Again, that is the last one, because we don't have any function definition and that is that corresponds to the data types of these actual arguments. So my answer can be that the best choice was float, and it called this function because float can accommodate the double. This is my answer. I don't know how C compiler internally handles it, but since this call was possible and there is an indication that function has been used, but which function was used, you saw in the call it was swap of float and float. Okay, this is what we call as name mangling. That is, the C compiler gives the internal names to these functions, and then only we have got multiple functions with the same name. Internally the names are different. This is called as name mangling. Now, function overloading leads to surprises. You have seen that also. Sometimes we make calls, we give such actual arguments which don't match with the definitions of any of the functions or with the formal arguments of any of the functions, but still the call takes place, and in some cases there was error also. So it will lead to surprises. Sometimes calls will take place, sometimes call will not take place, and this is a strange behavior of what you call C compiler. I have told you there are certain limitations of the C compiler, and this is one of these limitations, okay, where you don't know how C compiler treats this. Okay, I hope you have understood today's lecture, and we'll meet again in the next lecture. Thank you.